Hey everyone. So I have more testimony. I asked God to let me go back to the old headphones because I didn't like how the wireless headphones were so quiet. So I'm doing this video with my old headphones so that you can have a better listening to the word that God has me speak. Oh, where to begin? So this month has been an interesting month. Um, from the dreams I've been having, to the visions I've been seeing, to the experiences I've been going through. It's really been a change from the past. So here we go. I know I talked about, um, gosh, I don't even remember when the last video was. But I believe I talked about the obstacles in the way and Haman, the end of Haman. So in this case, and I know I talked about my husband being my Judas, so there's more revelation on that. So God gave me a dream on Monday of this week. And in that dream, my husband and I were sitting on a couch made for two. And we were snuggling, kind of, he had his arm around me and we were talking. And suddenly I stood up and I said to him, I gotta go get chicken for my family. And he looked at me and said, no, when I stood up, the first thing he said to me, he said, are we going to be on time or are we going to be late? And I said, I just need to go get chicken for my family. I'll be right back. We won't be late. And he goes, okay, we'll be late. I'll wait for you until you get back. I have nothing but time. Okay, so on Tuesday, him and I get to work together. And we ran out of lettuce. And we had a salad that needed to be made, a large one. And so I told the man who was going to be making the salad, I said, hey, you're out of lettuce. I just made there's no more lettuce. The boss heard me and he's like, no, we can't be out of lettuce. Because he always thinks I'm lying or he always thinks I'm wrong. So he went into the refrigerator and he looked around and he's like, there's no lettuce. Okay. Whew, Holy Spirit is coming over me right now. Okay, so he was gone, left the store, sent on this errand. When he came back, I had gone outside to throw away a box. And he was parking. And he looks at me and he smiled mischievously. And then he tosses the box of lettuce at me. Now, this is a 10-pound or 12-pound box of lettuce. I could have easily dropped it if I wasn't prepared to catch it. Eyes to see, ears to hear. When I caught it, he said, as he was throwing it, here you go. And he tossed it. And I was like, okay. And I walked inside smiling. The boss man saw it and he didn't like it. He walked right outside the door, and when my husband came back in, his face had completely changed. He looked solemn. He looked upset. Now, God put it in me a few days before to remind him that God had put a word in his mouth that he had to speak. And that by not doing this, he was in disobedience. And I said, Esther 4:14 tells us, for such a time as this. I said, if you don't open your mouth, salvation will come from somewhere else. But that won't save you from perishing. Now, he's a man of God, so he understands. Then I had this dream on Wednesday morning. God had me share it with him. And Thursday evening, or yes, Thursday evening, God had me, usually God will say, okay, go ahead and go home. You're done. But on Thursday, he had me go and sit in the lobby and just sit there because my husband was out on a delivery, so he wasn't here. He wasn't at the store when I was about to leave. And I sat down. When he walked in, there was a group of people standing in front of him, blocking his view, but he saw me in between. And he does this number. And then he moves back. So he sees me sitting. And I know because at this point, him and I are connected in the spirit. So I see what he sees. I hear what he hears. I know what he knows. And I heard him thinking about the revelation of that dream that I shared with him. And he said, I'm not waiting on her. She's waiting on me. And then God brought another woman who is a customer who I'm friendly with, and she asked me to come sit with her. Now, God put me in the path where my husband would be walking out to help deliver pizzas to this person's car because they ordered 50 pizzas. And this is the same person that he helped me with over the weekend. And so when... Stop. Sorry, everybody. I'm not sure why he gets that way. He hears her talking all the time because, anyway. And so I'm sitting with this woman and we're laughing, we're having a good time. And instead of walking towards the kitchen the way he came, he walked towards the kitchen behind me. Now there's a revolving door or a kitchen door in the back. I can't see him, but I know what God showed me was him looking back and looking at me and realizing that he had to finish it. So if you remember, I had talked about me getting into trouble and getting written up because my husband told on me. Well, he asked the manager at that time not to fire me. That was supposed to be what was happening. But God allowed the delay because the delay helped him see who I really am in his life. And so, because at this point, he likes watching me, but he keeps me at arm's length. Now you have to remember, this is all ego. The ego is the one that's causing him to keep me away. He's like, I want you close enough so I can see you. I want you close enough so I can talk to you. But I'm not ready to be in a relationship with you because I'm still scared. I'm still afraid that you're going to hurt me. I'm still afraid that this isn't going to be as good as I think it is. And so we've been going through, it's been a month since I got written up. Okay. Fast forward. I went back and I looked at the text of when I sent him a response to me getting written up. And his demeanor on Friday morning, he was sad that he had to do this. And he stood in a way that I could see him, and I could see that he was on his phone, and I could see he was looking at text messages. And I knew they were my text messages. And when he saw that I was looking at him, he stepped out of the way because I heard him say, I will lose my resolve if I keep seeing your face. Because he can't hurt me. He doesn't want to hurt me. He wants to protect me. But he doesn't realize that by committing this act, he's actually protecting me, defending me. And I wrote this all out. So my last day was the 21st. No, it was the 20th. 21st. Yes, it was the 21st, which is Friday. Now, if I go back 8 years, as of Friday, not the date, the 3/21, but the day Friday, 8 years ago to the day, I moved out of my house. I moved into my apartment where I began the life alone. Eyes to see, ears to hear. So I had heard a video from Sunray, who's one of the prophets I listen to, and she had talked about the posture at the end being more important than the posture at the beginning. In the beginning, we fall, we start up, we fall again, we start up, and we have cycles that we keep going through until we learn everything that we're supposed to learn. Now, several things happened this past week. On Monday, on Tuesday, I get a phone call from some lawyer telling me that I had a judgment against me, and all this information about it's associated to my social security number, and that I need to call them because if I don't, I'm going to be in some serious trouble and blah, blah, blah. And eyes to see and ears to hear, and using your discernment. In that moment, I asked God, what is this? Who is behind this? Not an hour later, I'm getting a text message from my son asking me to call him, asking me to text him to tell him that I'm okay because his dad just reached out to him about a lawyer calling him and telling him about this judgment against me and that I was in some serious trouble, and he just needed to make sure that I was okay and blah, blah, blah. What upset me was not the contact by my son. What upset me, or the context of this conversation, what upset me is that he was using his son to try and get me to get to my heart, to force me to call him and say, hey, what did you hear? What did they tell you? Like, I don't understand. I'm not in trouble. I haven't done anything. But it was to open the communication, to open that door. He wanted to force that door open. And I said no. And I texted my son and I said, hey, can you do me a favor? I said, hey, I'm fine. I haven't done anything wrong. I am working. That's why I didn't answer, because I opened my phone to 4 missed calls, a text message, and a frantic voicemail from my son. And I'm like, what? And that's what upset me. My husband has a Tesla, and the Teslas, you can use video to record the surroundings. And he set it up so that whenever I walk out, he could record me because he likes to see me. And so he saw me be on my phone. He saw me, have this reaction, have this. And I had to explain to him that it wasn't my ex that I was responding to or feelings about my ex. I said this was about my son. And I gave him some background information that he didn't have. The next day, on Wednesday, he came in with tears in his eyes. And I knew he was crying for me. His heart was bleeding for me, because here this man was using my son against me, and now he was going to do something that was going to hurt me and that was going to take away my ability to take care of myself. But when you have God, you don't have to worry about things. Materialistic things, money, none of it matters because God has you. And so God had been putting a word in him that he wasn't being obedient about doing, because he didn't want to lose me. He didn't want to lose me being there with him. He liked working with me. He liked watching me work, because just like he gave me peace and I felt calm, and I can't explain it. It's a supernatural feeling when I'm around him. I have never felt anything like this before. Even when I'm not around him, I still feel peaceful. I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. But this place was beginning to turn into a toxic environment, because the manager wanted me, and he wanted me at all costs. And God has been showing me, he has been giving me the quarters, 1776 to 1976, which is the centennial quarter of America's revolution. What is revolution? It is freedom. On Friday, when I opened the drawer to cash out a customer, the entirety of the quarter stack, the $10 quarter stack, was all of these 1776 to 1976 quarters. It was $10 worth of quarters with this labeling on it. And I was like, 10 is full circle. 10 is liberty. And I was, it caught me. Like, I was like, whoa. So as I was doing my final prep, which is the ranch, I had to put it in cups and then I could put it in the refrigerator and then it's done. The Holy Spirit came over me. And I was like, Father, what's going on? What is it you? And then he brought back the remembrance of my husband being on his phone and looking through his text messages. And he realized that he couldn't share any of the text messages with this man. He was hoping that just by telling him that his anxiety and his heart beating uncontrollably, which are also very symptomatic things that happen when you're in love. But you can misconstrue those feelings to be bad feelings, to be things that, because it's just a line between love and hate. We hear that all the time. And he loves me. He wants to protect me. And God was showing him that to protect me, he had to let me go. He had to let me go free. Because remember, at this point, I am no longer following in the order line of following God. I am now in the line of following my husband. So he is the one leading me. But am I still hearing God? Yes, I am. Am I still in line with God? Yes, I am. That hasn't changed. I still have God first. But my husband comes after God. My foundation is now God. But the person leading me is now my husband. So in this instance, he was being disobedient in what God was telling him to do, because he was looking at it through his physical eyes. He was looking at it through his physical understanding, through his fleshly ego. He was like, no, I can't let her go because I can protect her. I can hide her. I can hide my feelings for her. And God's like, son, you will never be able to be with your wife as long as she is here in this store. Because this man is not going to allow you to be together. Because God cannot be where evil is. And once God leaves the premises, they have God's mercy, God's protection to a point. And I was sent there as a last resort. Like, this is it. You guys mistreat her. You guys don't show her the love and support and taking care of her that you're supposed to show her. Now, God sends them visions. God sends them exactly like he does to us. He gives them the opportunity. And if they lose that last opportunity, because there's a time limit. When that time comes up, I got to go. I got to dust my feet and I got to go with God showing me where I'm going to go next. And so the person that was holding me there was my husband, because he didn't want to give up. He was like, no, we can do this. We can, and he was coming up with different scenarios and things that we could do. And God kept telling him, no, this man is not going to allow you to stay together. You are going to have to flee. And I don't want that for her. She suffered enough. You have to release her back to me, and I will bring her back to you. So he had to have enough faith to say, okay, I'm letting her go. And I know God is going to bring her back. I know somehow her and I will be together again. So I see this conversation transgressing between my husband and this manager. And I saw the darkness. Now, this man, not this week, but the previous week, had come in with a satchel. And God showed me what was in the satchel. He goes, that is his witchcraft bag. That is his Indian heritage, as he calls it, where he brings his herbs and he brings his things and he sprinkles them on the food, and he makes chants and he does things to try and keep people subdued under him, because he wants to be the savior, because he wants to be the man in control. And that is what God wanted to release me from. And the last thing I said to my husband is, this man reminds me of my ex. I will never be with him. I will never accept him because he is demeaning. He is dominating. He is forceful. He is not a man of God because he uses his will and his power to subdue people. And once you're in that store, you have to come under his thumb or you will not be allowed to stay. And that was the only thing. He took me as a challenge. He goes, I will break you. I will force you to come down beneath me. That is what God was showing my husband. That this man was not going to stop until he broke my spirit. I was having to be overexerting my abilities to clean tables, to keep customers happy. I would come home exhausted. This last week, in fact, yesterday, I didn't get out of bed. I asked God, I said, now that you've released me from this place, can I please stay at your feet? Can I please just sleep here? I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything. I just want to recover my strength at your feet. I am weak right now. I cannot stand on my own. And then I said, and tomorrow I'll start going out and I'll start applying at new places and I'll start doing everything you want. And he goes, no, wait till Monday. Like, Monday? But I thought I'm not supposed to worry about tomorrow. I'm supposed to only worry about today. He goes, exactly. Don't worry about this until Monday. You don't have anything to worry about until Monday. I'm like, okay. The last time I left my job, so here's the thing. This man was not going to fire me. And God was not going to allow me to turn in my 2 weeks. I had already asked him. I was begging him to let me go. I was begging him. And he goes, it's not me, you have to ask. And I was like, what? He goes, you have to ask your husband. Your husband is the one leading you now. Your husband is the one holding you here. So I told my husband, I said, I have been praying to God that Will fires me. I have been praying to God that he just gives up. But he was bearing down. He was really getting, just sticking onto his ego, sticking onto his decision of not wanting me to be alone or to be out of his sight. He wanted to dominate me. He wanted to break me because this would be his biggest win. And so I told my husband, I can't do this anymore. It is taking everything I have to do the job because nobody is helping. Everybody is leaving me to do it all by myself. And he was watching it happen. My husband was watching it happen. And not only that, but I was having confrontations now with the men who were under the manager's rule. These were the men that have sworn allegiance to him. And they are now trying to force my husband to also subdue himself to this man. The problem is, when he made the decision to follow through on what God was telling him to do, now no one can subdue him because he will not go back to the way he was, to the life he had before. Because God has a way of changing you slowly. So at 4 o'clock, I was washing dishes. I had just finished all the ranch. My hands were hurting. And he saw me that I was shaking my hands out because the pain of the sheer amount of dressing that I had to do. It was insane. No one has ever done that much. Most people stop at 3. They're like, I'm done. I don't care. I'm not going to do any more than this. But I did what I was supposed to do because that is what God told me to do. You do your job. You do the things you're supposed to do. I will give you the strength to finish strong. And so when I was washing dishes, the the manager comes looking for me, and he goes, "Hey, Dee, come on. We need to talk." And he looked to the front, and there was too many people there. And he goes, "You know what? Let's go back here." He took me outside to the back. And he says to me, "I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Gather your things because you no longer work here." I said, "Okay." I didn't ask him anything. I didn't linger there. I opened the door. I walked right through it. I put my code into the system. I clocked myself out. And now I waited because God said, "You need to get your cash tips." I'm like, okay. And in the meantime, he was talking to a couple that work together and they're employees at the store. And I guess the crew chief caught them kissing, which is a no-no. So he had to talk to them about that. And then after he talked to them about, that being inappropriate and them needing to stop that, he then told them, the girl stayed behind and talked to the manager because he wanted to know about her health. Because the last 2 Mondays, she had an episode and ended up going home early. And the manager was mad, the one that she was working with, because she did it without telling him anything. And that's a no-no as well. So then I waited for her to come back. She told me, "Oh, here they are." It was $7. 7 in the Strong Concordance means perfect completion. And so I had completed my task. I had completed my portion of the work there. But because this man was not going to let me go, a situation had to be created to force him to fire me. Because God wasn't going to let me go because he was no longer leading me. Now it was my husband. My husband didn't want to let me leave because he felt that if I left, he would have no access to me. He would have no way of being connected to me. But God had already built that soul-to-soul connection. We could talk to each other, and he realized, okay, so I can hear her thoughts and she can hear mine. And once he realized and once he accepted the thoughts that he was hearing were mine, then God said, "Okay, now you've got to do it. Pull the trigger because it is finished. She's not needed here anymore." They've been given the amount of time that was necessary to return to me, to put down their ways, to treat her the way she was meant to be treated. And because of their behavior, because of their attitude towards my child, who I sent to be the vessel of forgiveness for them, an opportunity, and they squandered that opportunity, then now they must pay the price. Remember what happened to Mariah, Jade, Cassie, to Carla, Abby, who came against me as well. They were moved out into other positions, but they're going to face judgment as well. But their judgment isn't going to be like the judgment that is going to be in the store. Because they came against me individually. They weren't doing this to other people. This man, this manager, is subduing anyone who comes into his store. He's doing what the woman that raised me did to me, in trying to siphon my blessings, trying to siphon my abilities, my gifts from God. And so his punishment is going to be greater than that of everyone else. But see, the thing that my husband doesn't realize is that he also is going to be removed from that store right before the end happens. Because he is the confirmation to my testimony. When I and him come together, it will be so that he can confirm everything I just said. That God delivered his judgment to these people. And so God brought me to a few scriptures. These are scriptures that I wrote a year ago, today, 3:23. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verses 2 through 10. Judgment will come to those who stand against God. Psalm 115, verses 1 through 18. Summarized, praise the Lord, my mighty God, who protects and loves me. My life is not falling apart. It's falling into place. That is from a song that I've been hearing since yesterday. No, since Friday. Okay, so when I left the building, okay, as I was standing there, the manager's watching me. And I could hear his thoughts. He's like, is she going to tell me that she wants me, that she wants to be with me? That now that she's not my employee, she could share her true feelings for me? And I was like, what? In what? You just heard from your employee that I have been texting him, telling him how much I love him. And I'll go, oh, he didn't tell you that part. He just told you that my presence, my sheer presence, he thought that he could work with me. He thought that he could be around me. But my sheer presence makes him uncomfortable, but not in a bad way. And so, but he didn't tell him that. He told him that I make him uncomfortable, that it makes his heart beat faster, that, I bump into him and he's like holding his breath. He feels erratic. He feels like he can't think, like he can't work. He feels so nervous. But he's not telling him he's in love. He's not telling him that he has the same exact feelings for me that I have for him, because it is not time yet for him to say those things, because then the manager would fire him and not me. And God doesn't want that. God doesn't want me in that man's vicinity, in that man's area, because his darkness would make him do things that he's been wanting my address. He's been wanting my location. He's been trying everything he can to find where I live so that he can follow me, so that he can stalk me. But God, yesterday when I left, I wasn't numb. I wasn't sad. I have not shed a tear. I have been at peace. Sleeping all day yesterday and sleeping most of this morning, I've been at peace. And the reason I don't look like the things that I have left behind is because I'm at peace. I have this supernatural peace that I have no way of saying I'm this way because it's not me. It's all God. I have no job opportunities right now. I have nothing lined up. But I have been planting seeds. And this is where this comes to. So God had me look at my phone, and my phone was at 12:12. And at 12:12, in the Strong Concordance, it means in the shadow of God. In the Hebrew. In the Greek, it means clear